Alright, so, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Nick.
I'm Judah.
Good morning.
Adams. Nice to meet you, Adams. Nice to meet you, Nick.
Alright. So, first off, we'd like to know why you want to apply for this grant position.
I have been chasing the dream of paleontology for almost 21 years. According to my mother, the first word I ever said with any fluidity in English was paleontology, which apparently took me an entire minute to say because I had to slowly sound it out. But that notwithstanding, I've been chasing this dream for 21 years. And as I've gone through college, I'm a third year at South Dakota School of Mines and Technology, geology major with a plan to move into a paleontology master's program after graduation. As I've moved through, I've noticed that I have a distinct lack of actual paleontological experience. I've worked with a national park doing geology and social media outreach. I've worked at a kennel. I've done a lot of babysitting. I've volunteered all over the place, but I lack actual experience within paleontology itself. And I want to change that. I want to fix that. So that's what brought me to this grant. As for this specific grant, and not a grant on, say, macro paleontology, you can look at the history of the world. And let's say millions of years from now, the Serengeti is fossilized. The elephant's going to be the most impressive animal you're going to find. But all it's going to tell you is that there were big animals and lots of food for them. The dung beetle is going to tell you so much more. In a similar vein, by studying these microinvertebrates, tiny animals, the largest that I've come across so far, less than 2 centimeters in length, or diameter, width, whatever measurement, will tell so much more than the fish and the sharks and the whales that lived in the area. And that's why I'm interested in this specific grant.
Thank you for sharing that. And what frustrates you?
Frustrates me. May I ask the context?
In the sense of from a professional perspective.
I do not like my workstation being tampered with. I've discovered that in a recent job that one of my biggest pet peeves is people tampering with my workstation. Beyond that, I do my best to be pretty copacetic. It's generally within the field, there are so many viewpoints and so many ideas and so many concepts that one really needs to keep an open mind, just so long as you leave my workspace the way I left it, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to find anything.
Yeah. Now, mentioning working with other people, on the jobs you've listed in your career history, how many of them involved routinely working with other people on the same task?
The job at Catoctin, I was an understudy to the 2 park rangers, the park biologist and the park botanist. So most of my time was actually spent working directly under them, be it cataloging plants, removing invasives, at one point extracting a deer that had jumped and gotten its antlers stuck in a tree in a fog bank. It was in front of the visitor center. We kind of had to remove it. Most of that was working under people. The job at the kennel, which I did not list on my resume, was a very shorter job, a couple weeks. Was actually laid off because they adopted all the dogs out, and it was the most wonderful reason to be laid off ever. I was basically solitary throughout that. Working at Ronald McDonald House, you work in a team. You're preparing the kitchen, you're preparing the games, you're preparing the event, whatever it is. Your focus is working with this team to help the people who are there enjoy their night. Because the reason that people end up at Ronald McDonald House is not happy with them. And as for working as a groundskeeper at the South Dakota School of Mines, every day working as a team, removing weeds, moving rocks, setting the new Mineral Industries rock garden on the west side of the building into place, mowing lawns, weed whacking, always in a team. Does that sufficiently answer the question, or would you? Wonderful.
So, 20 or 30 years from now, right? Say you win the Nobel Peace Prize, and what contributions to your work within the paleontology field would allow you to win that prize, and why?
I don't know that a paleontologist has ever won the Nobel Peace Prize. So I honestly cannot say with certainty what would attract enough attention to earn that most prestigious of prizes. I know that in the fields of biology, it's generally biological engineering and bioresearch, vaccinations. I truly have no adequate answer to that. I cannot think of how I would be able to, that would be connected unless I pull a Jurassic Park and walk into a symposium holding a baby dinosaur or something.
Now, furthermore on accomplishments, what would you say your best accomplishment so far has been, either in class or at a job/internship position?
That is a tough one. Honestly, I am mildly autistic, and I would say that my greatest accomplishment, in my view, is external of class and work experience. It is actually finally coming to a place where I understand social interactions and am able to interact with people on a meaningful level. That happened several years ago at this point. I was about 14 when that happened. As for school or other academics, probably the first time I was published. I was published for poetry, used a pseudonym. Looking back on it, very, very just, but that was, I can remember just the ear-to-ear smiles on my parents' faces when I came home with that little literary magazine, which I was the first entry in. As for job experience, I would have to say getting Cody, the 14-year-old incontinent Cocker Spaniel, adopted out, which was just a wonderful experience watching him finally, after 14 years of bouncing from shelter to shelter to shelter, being adopted by an old lady, equally elderly and equally grouchy, but they were perfect for each other. And last I heard, he's put on another 4 years, so that's truly wonderful.
So how would you apply your skill at poetry to the working for our grant position?
I was afraid you'd go with that. There is no direct application. However, I will say that flowery language does look very good. Flowery language does look very good on intro letters. My work with poetry will probably never see application. My work with more structured things, I can use the patience that I have learned, the patience and discipline that I have learned through the more insanely metered and rigid structures of poetry, such as concrete and haikus and sonnets, to timekeeping, for lack of a better thing. I will often find myself taking beat measurements in iambic pentameter as I worked on this recent project I was working on, which was incidentally also Miocene shells. So,
All right.
So you feel as though your work in the literary field has kind of gave you a different perspective or enhanced your creative abilities within your field.
yes.
Okay. So one last question, then we'll go to questions for us. So, do you consider it important to be perfect and late, or good and on time?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That is a really good question. It completely depends on the situation. If I am working for someone and it is a set due date, I prefer to be perfect and on time. Barring that, I will do my best to go for on time before perfection. As the truth of the matter is, the more you examine a perfect piece, the more cracks you find just on the surface. And those cracks often run very deep.
All right, I'm calling him. Calling. No more. No more.
All right. It's all